The jungles of Mexico hid America's greatest secret for thousands of years. This dense green canopy carried the traces of a massive genius isolated from the modern world. In 1862, a peasant found the first colossal head underground, changing American history. Around 1200 BC, a massive civilization suddenly rose in these jungles. Without any preparation phase, they directly reached the peak in architecture and art. Before the Aztecs and Mayans were on the scene, the Olmecs had already discovered the calendar and writing. They are the mother culture that laid the foundation for all great Mesoamerican cultures. The name Olmec was given to them by the Aztecs thousands of years later, meaning rubber people. What they called themselves in their own language remained hidden in the dark and lost pages of history. It still astonishes the scientific world that they emerged with such flawless stonework without a primitive beginning. It was as if this advanced technical knowledge had come to them from across the ocean. Olmec engineers built massive artificial mountains by moving millions of cubic meters of earth in the middle of the swamp. These structures were designed to prevent destructive floods and to be closer to the sacred sky. Water channels carefully carved from stone are one of the most advanced hydraulic engineering examples of the ancient world. This system, which brought continuous clean water to the city, is tangible proof of the Olmecs' technical genius. The Olmecs went down in history not only for their giant stone heads, but also for the rubber balls they developed. By processing latex obtained from rubber trees growing in forests, they managed to produce flexible and durable balls. These balls formed the basis of the sacred ball game played in Mesoamerica. The game was not just entertainment, it also represented cosmic symbolism. The ball symbolized the sun or planets in the sky, and the player's struggle depicted the battle between order and chaos in the universe. The rubber technology developed by the Olmecs later spread to the Maya and Aztec civilizations, marking the beginning of a tradition that would last for thousands of years. Every street and structure in the city is not random, but aligned according to specific star systems and planets. They were the first astrologers to successfully translate the divine order of the sky into a city plan on Earth. They not only observed the sky, but also interpreted the cycles of Venus and the movements of the stars as sacred signs. This cosmic understanding would later form the basis of the advanced celestial calendars and astrological traditions of the Mayan civilization. did a people without wheels or pack animals bring these blocks from the mountains 100 kilometers away? This journey across the turbulent waters of rivers is one of the greatest puzzles in the history of engineering. The thick lips and wide-nose structures on the statues contrast greatly with indigenous American genetics. These characteristic facial features may be a sign of a secret intercontinental bond in the ancient world. The helmets on the heads bear striking and inexplicable similarities to ancient Middle Eastern and Phoenician warrior helmets. These details show that history is much more complex and connected than what we are told. Each head has its own expression and soul. These are not just statues, but copies of living kings. The Olmecs defied time by carving the immortality of their leaders into these massive stones. According to Olmec belief, the head is the most important center where the soul, intelligence, and sacred power are gathered. Therefore, by depicting only the head instead of the body, they aim to preserve the essence of the person. Deep hammer marks on some heads are the result of a ceremonial ritual performed when a leader died. These marks were left to release the dead king's power from the stone and send his soul to eternity. Many colossal heads were hidden by being buried underground in a grand ceremony shortly after being made. These statues may have been intended to serve the underworld gods rather than the physical world. The colossal statues face the precise coordinates where the sun rises and sets during the solstices. These massive stones were also fixed observation points used by the civilization to measure time. Long-bearded strangers with different clothing, never seen among the local people, are depicted in the reliefs. These figures are the memory of mysterious guides who set foot on the American continent thousands of years ago. The La Venta Pyramid is America's first pyramid and symbolizes a sacred volcano. This massive earthen structure was the first spiritual bridge the Olmecs built between heaven and earth. Giant mosaics buried underground are secret gifts, prepared for the gods and hidden from human eyes. Thousands of tons of precious jade were laid deep in the earth to form complex serpent motifs. The tools they made from hematite may be the first examples of a compass, showing they discovered the Earth's magnetic field. This technology proves they tracked not just the stars, but the invisible forces of the earth. The Olmecs processed obsidian as smooth as a mirror to direct light and energy into dark temples. These mirrors were used in rituals, both for divination and to control the power of the sun. They saw jade as the sacred color of life, water, and eternity, valuing it more than gold. The most skilled artisans carved hard stones as fine as silk to create immortal masks. The Cascile block is the oldest and most mysterious, evidence of the first complex writing system in the Americas. The symbols on this stone are one of the ancient world's greatest unsolved linguistic puzzles. The Olmecs developed a number system of dots and bars capable of complex astronomical calculations. This mathematical genius allowed them to accurately measure cycles spanning thousands of years. Being one of the first civilizations to use 0 as a digit shows the depth of their mathematical knowledge. The concept of 0 was a symbol of their understanding of the void and eternity of the universe. The Olmecs' adoption of this understanding shows that they were not only mathematicians, but also great philosophers who contemplated everything in the universe. By interlocking two different calendars, they perfectly controlled time from both religious and agricultural perspectives. This system is a massive legacy that would form the basis of the Mayan calendar thousands of years later. The Olmecs' greatest god was a half-human, half-jaguar, being representing power and the underworld. This figure symbolized the union of nature's wild power and human intelligence. Mysterious baby-faced figures were sacred spirits, representing rain from the sky and the fertility of the earth. These statues were offerings for the continuation of the agricultural cycle that fed society. It was believed that priests transformed into jaguars during rituals and communicated with the spirit world. This shamanic transformation was the most feared and respected ritual of Olmec society. Sacrificial ceremonies to please the gods and maintain the balance of the universe began in the dark corners of Olmec temples. These bloody rituals were seen as a price to be paid for the continuation of life. They consecrated caves as massive mouths opening to the realm of the dead and the dwellings of the gods. These dark passages were sacred spaces where the fine line between life and death met. The oldest traces of the Mayans' famous feathered serpent god Kukulkan are hidden in these depictions of winged snakes. This motif represented the eternal connection between earth and sky and wisdom. They saw mountains as the true home of the gods and built massive altars to reach these peaks. Every mountain was a ladder stretching to the sky and a source of divine power. Around 400 BC, these massive cities began to be abandoned, suddenly and mysteriously. Although there is no certain evidence as to why the population dispersed, environmental disasters are the most likely possibility. The shifting of riverbeds and volcanic eruptions may have completely collapsed their agricultural systems. Nature, taking back the fertility it offered, also paved the way for the end of this great civilization. This was not an escape, but a farewell ceremony. They entrusted those imposing, wise faces to the compassionate embrace of the earth, so that the spirits of their kings, even if their cities were destroyed, would live forever in the heart of the land. This was not a defeat, but an act of preserving memory and honor. Although the Olmec civilization vanished, their language, beliefs, and calendar systems were inherited by the Mayans and Aztecs. Every great culture in Central America, from pyramid construction to the writing system, was born from this legacy they left behind. The foreign facial features on the colossal stone heads and underground cities discovered with LiDAR technology still make researchers think about mysterious connections. These statues may be proof that human history united much earlier than we thought. This is perhaps the most intriguing question. What if the Olmecs weren't silent witnesses to the history we know, but rather a missing link in a forgotten global network? What if those stony faces were the memories of visitors or ancestors from across the oceans? Olmec, the beginning of civilization, mystery itself, and the common heritage of humanity. Remember, these colossal, heads deep in the jungles, continue to whisper the truth and ancient knowledge to us. The beginning of civilization, mystery itself, and the common heritage of humanity. We will continue to trace these ancient secrets. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join us on this journey into the depths of history, and not miss the rest of the series.